Hey guys, my name is Will Walker. This is my wife Molly. We're both graduates of Midland Teen Challenge from 2009. When Brother Day asked us to give our testimony, we got to thinking, and it's probably been 7 years since either one of us have tried to do this, so this could be interesting. But a little bit about myself. I grew up in church. My dad was an associate pastor, and as such, we moved around a lot. As time went on, I started to get bitter about things I saw going on in the church and started to equate that with how God worked. I started to resent ministry. I started to resent God because I felt like my dad was doing what he thought he was supposed to do, being led by God and going where we were supposed to go. And so I decided, when I felt like God had a call on my life to ministry, that I wasn't about to do that. And so I went my own way. That brought me through a lot of pain and heartache, drug addiction, multiple drunk driving arrests. I stayed in a lot of trouble and actually ended up facing prison time before I finally hit rock bottom. I remember when I was talking with my mom after my last arrest, knowing the gravity of the situation, what I was facing, and speaking with her outside of a bail bonds office, she asked me when the last time I talked to God was, and I told her that I didn't believe that God could hear me. I definitely knew in my mind that God wasn't anywhere near me because of the things I'd done, because of the way I'd lived and how I had completely turned my back on Him. And my mom spoke into my life and said, all you have to do is call out to God. He's never left you. He's never gone anywhere. He's never forsaken you. And guys, I'm telling you, right there and right then, I broke down in that parking lot and I cried out to God. I told Him that I didn't know what I needed in my life. I didn't know what was good for me, but I knew that He did. And He told me that there is no way for me to be happy if I'm going against Him, if I'm not serving Him. That was a scary thing because I knew what I'd seen in my lifetime as far as serving God and ministry, but I knew more so that I did not have the answers and I could not live another day running from God. And so in 2008, I came to Teen Challenge. When I first got there, I really got a little haughty and thought that I knew better than most of the people there. I'd been raised in church. I had it all figured out. I just kind of had a couple of hiccups I'd convinced myself. And I remember some of the curriculum in Teen Challenge is kind of like Bible Basics 101, and I get frustrated and think it was just kind of a waste of time, spending a lot of time, memorizing the same stuff that I'd heard all my life. And got angry, got upset, just felt like I wasn't doing anything, and God revealed Himself again to me. He spoke to me and said, if I would have applied the things that I knew from an early age, the principles in my life that I knew I was supposed to be following, that I wouldn't have ended up in that situation. It wasn't that God ever left my side or ever took His hand off of me. Quite the contrary, I can see so many times in my life where God had His hand on me when I should have been dead. I had no regard for myself or where I was going, but He always loved me, always cared for me, and always saved me, always pulled me back. When I came to Teen Challenge, I had an opportunity after about a month in to become the worship leader. And we traveled every weekend giving our testimonies, playing music. I loved it. I loved the relationships that I made there. But more than that, I got a lot of practical knowledge and training for the career I'm in now. I'm a worship leader at a church in Paris, Texas. I love every minute of it. I feel like I'm right where God has for me to be. And if it had never been for me breaking down and realizing that I couldn't do anything without God. I was headed for death and for destruction and completely throwing my life away. But He had a different purpose for my life. He had a different plan, and I thank God every day that He knew exactly what I needed and who I needed.
All right, I'm Molly Walker. I grew up in Paris, Texas, which is a very small town in little northeast Texas, and I have a wonderful family. I had two parents that loved me. They were Christians. From a very early age, I knew about Jesus. I accepted Him in my heart at 4. But I think when you just have Jesus there all the time, which I did, because He was always a constant. Like my mother, that's one thing, we were going to believe in Jesus, and I believed in Him, and I knew He died on the cross. But that was it. My relationship didn't go deeper. I was a very good kid. My older sister was very rebellious, and that was a struggle in my household. She was pregnant as a teenager, and that really puts a lot of pressure on the family. You don't realize it, you don't see that, but looking back, it broke us. And it was also, my parents had to walk out that shame of having a teen daughter that was pregnant, and God really just started, I see now, working in my family and tearing down a lot of strongholds of religion, of what people thought about us. So right there, God really worked. So I was a good girl, didn't get in trouble. I played college softball, did all this stuff while I was at college. Before then, I kind of got with a boyfriend. I was a good girl that liked bad boys, not him, he's a good boy. But I did at that time, and kind of just thought that I'm going to go back to God when I'm ready. Right now, I want to have fun. I want to do me, experience life. So I just was one day I'll pick up God again. I believe in Him and I know He's there, but right now I'm going to do fun. And so what I thought was going to be fun was really the darkest days of my life. I did some choices with this guy that I knew would affect me down the road, but just didn't realize how much it does affect you, and went off to college, struggled. I was the best usually, and that's what I was used to being, but when I went off to college, I wasn't the best. Softball, that was always my go-to, kind of just fell through. I came back home after 2 years of college. I was embarrassed. I was just ashamed. So I also met another guy, not very good. We were very, very good together. Our influences on each other were terrible. And for 7 years, I just took terrible steps into the wrong direction in my life. I started using prescription medication, pain medication. I had no idea the effects that it has on you. I just started taking it for fun, and before you know, I was addicted. I didn't know I was addicted. I didn't realize it. I woke up one day and I was like, why do I feel so terrible? Why am I so achy? And then I realized, oh wait, I just have to have this to function. It wasn't to get high or to party or do anything. It was to function. And I fell into the biggest depression. I mean, I remember waking up and looking in the mirror and be like, I don't even have the energy to brush my teeth. And I know that's disgusting, but I was broken. And I remember one night I was laying in bed and I just was like, I'm done. And God, I'm done. I cannot do it anymore. You have to get me out of this. I can't do it myself. I don't know how to. And right there, He stepped in. Now, He did it in a way I wasn't really thinking He was going to do it. I thought He was going to be like, all right, you're healed, no longer a drug addict, walk away, life is good. But I was going to get some drugs, and it was icing, and I flipped my car and wrecked it, flipped it 3 different times, and it was so embarrassing because every window broke on my car, and it was so wet that dirt just was piled on me and piled on me and piled on me. I had no injury from the wreck. I just have one scar, but I was covered in mud, and that was His protection at the time, and they had to wipe me down. Somebody said, oh, I saw you on the side of the road. I thought, oh my gosh, dear Lord, what did they see? Because I was like a mud pile, but that happened. I went to work the next day, and the guy was like, hey, I know you've been taking money, which I had. I'm not going to put you in jail or anything, but you got to get help. You got to get help. So that happened. And then my dad came to me and was like, baby, you've got to do something. So I talked to my parents, and I came and met with them, and they were like, let's do something. And my mom thought I was going to go crazy, which I usually would have if they had to try to do an intervention, but I was ready. God had already been preparing. So they were like, we think you should do Teen Challenge. I'd had some other family members who had gone into the program, so I was like, I don't know about that, a year. Ooh, that's a long time. I don't know if I can do that, because at the time you act like you got plans when you got nothing. So I was like, and so my mom was like, we have 2 weeks. If you can find something that's cheaper or that is faith-based, you can do it. Well, guys, guess what? There's nothing cheaper than Teen Challenge. So just to let you know, so I kind of looked around and wanted to go closer, but God knew exactly where I was supposed to be. So I went out to Midland, and while I was in Teen Challenge, I was not perfect. It was not easy. I had a struggle. We came in, and the boyfriend that I was dating at the time, he was not ready to come in, so he stayed behind. I remember praying very shallowly in my bed, like, oh, I wish he would come and do all, come and get Jesus, which I didn't care about that. I just wanted to get out of there. But God is faithful, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later in my testimony. So I went in, and about 4 or 5 days in, I was kind of had like wheels, like, you know what, I'm bad, but these people here, they're real bad. So I went in there and went into the lady. It was like, hey, I think this is not for me. And they're like, oh, do you think God made a mistake by sending you here? I'm like, I don't think God had anything to do with it. I think my parents were over everything. And they're like, well, I really do think so. And for some reason at the time, I was like, can my parents get their money back? And they said no, and so I stayed, which I've spent lots of their money, so I don't know why that made me stay. But God introduced me to a girl that had been in the program, and really that's what sustained me. Our friendship got me through, and I know how y'all are at the program. I mean, I had to do several of them, temptation over with, a lot of the program over with, because I wasn't ready, and I still wanted to hold on to things. And while I was in the program, we had actually went to an outside counselor, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, I was in trouble because I'd gone home on pass and done some things I wasn't supposed to do. And I was like, well, really, it's not their business. I'm not, I wasn't here. And he was like, well, it's like you struggle with entitlement. Like, why you signed those rules? You knew what you were supposed to do. So like, really, you're supposed to follow everything they say. What makes you think you're better or above that? And I don't know why. That right there broke me. But I was like, all right, you're right. And I told on myself for everything that I had been doing, from stealing candy from churches while we were cleaning them. I know, but you'll understand if you're at Teen Challenge, or whatever I was doing, from very small things that I just let it all out. And God, from right there in that program, really started to work with me. And then later on, while me and Will right here were able to both work in the program, and I know you're not allowed to talk to each other, and we did have to keep our distance, but I set up the rallies and the events that we went on, and Will went on them. So we got to kind of get to know each other that way. And well, he was like in love with me from the beginning. I guess you could say that. It took me a little longer to realize, but I did have a moment while we were in the program, and it was at the very end of it. And he was singing, because he does sing, and he was in the middle of the church, and God spoke to me in an audible voice. Like, I was like, oh, and he was like, hey, I just want you to know that's your husband right there, and that's your family. His family was at this rally. And I was like, okay. And he's like, look, like, that's who I've made for you. Like, you fought me on everything. There's a line of the song that he sings, and he's like, this is what you need. And I was like, okay. And still kind of was in denial about it. And then another lady had prayed over me and was like, I want to pray for your family, because we have a lot of addiction in my family. So she was going to just try to just pray over that and all that stuff. And in the middle of it, she stopped and she was like, hey, I've never done this, but God wants me to tell you that he told you who your husband was. And I was like, huh? Okay, yeah. He did. And he's like, I just want you to know he's going to love you like Jesus loves the church. Let me tell you, ladies, this guy right here, he has really loved me like Jesus loves the church. He has been faithful and has forgiven me and has been patient in everything. So he'll tell a little bit about his experience.
Yeah, I mean, I do strive to be the best husband I can, but there's a lot of times that I do fall short. I know that from an early point in the program, I saw Molly, she caught my eye, and as time went on, I really was able to see more and more of her character and more of who she was. Even though we had limited contact, I really felt a strong drawing towards her. And I remember I was maybe 2 months from graduation. I went on a walk to Emmaus, and I'd really been dealing with this stuff because, we'd been at Teen Challenge for nearly a year, and kind of starting to think, okay, what's next? Okay, I'm in ministry here at Teen Challenge. I know that I'm planning on going on staff after I graduate and everything, but what else have you got for me, God? Really trying to seek Him and everything. And I felt, like I said, very strongly that I wanted to be with Molly, but I remember there was a part of Emmaus where we kind of had to let go of things that we've been holding on to, reservations or things like that. And I said, God, I'm just giving this to you. I'm giving my future to you. I don't know what it holds, but I know that I can't figure it out on my own. And He really spoke to me and said, the desires that are in your heart are not something that you've come up with. I put those desires there. And so I knew right then that Molly was who I was supposed to be with, and I've never once regretted it. Never once regretted it. We've had amazing opportunities since we graduated. Since we graduated in March and April, got married in July.
3 months later.
Yeah.
Didn't really know each other. We did a courtship type thing at Teen Challenge, so made us go through all the hoops and everything. So we were quickly married, and then we gave the opportunity to work out there, and which has been the greatest foundation that we could have had. I mean, the fact that we were two drug addicts who came into a program with absolutely nothing, and God was like, oh, hey, I've been waiting for y'all to be obedient. This is what I want to give to y'all. I mean, they provided a housing. We had, our car, everything that we would have never had. In 7 years, we had a stability, a family that looked over us. We had accountability. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes it was like, hey, get out of our business. But at the same time, it was something that God, the whole time, everything He used, every small intricate thing He's brought back, and we use now every single day as He's in ministry. What I do in my job, everything is just because of the faithfulness that we did at Teen Challenge. And we'd been there almost 7 years. And to go back to a bit of my testimony, I got a call from my ex-boyfriend's dad, and was like, hey, he's ready to come to the program. Like 7 years later, I'm happily married. There's no problem. He's like, do you think there's room for him? And my husband, being who he is, being humble and gracious as he always is, was like, yeah, bring him on in. I'll do whatever I can and help the guy talk to, which is unbelievable. And he got through the program, and now he's married to one of my very best friends. They have a beautiful family. His life is turned around. So that's how God is. My prayer that was so selfish was all about me. And He answered it in a way that I never thought He was, in such a bigger way. And that, to me, God, when He does stuff like that, it's just unbelievable. After a while, being at Teen Challenge, God has started to work on Will He was ready for something else. Just something, he didn't know what it was. My dad was sick at the time, and my mom was like, hey, y'all come home. Y'all come to Paris. And we were like, Will's like, I'm ready, let's go. We were gonna help take care of my dad. He was struggling with cancer. And we got up, we came to Paris, and we kind of with no job. Once again, here we are, God, I hope you're in this, and we got to do what we got to do. What's crazy is even today we had a sermon that just because we went through Teen Challenge, that's not when the hard stuff ended. We were drug addicts, and we did all that stuff, and we went through Teen Challenge, but what I faced later after Teen Challenge has been so much harder. Lost my dad to cancer. My brother passed away. It's been hard, but God is so faithful,
So faithful. And just what we went through and what God's done in our relationship gave us such an opportunity to pour into such,
Right.
there's so much of our family and our friends. But there's no telling. I mean, I can't think of all the people. You know, for a while, both of us did intakes at Teen Challenge, and we were able to minister to so many people and see their lives restored. We've had cousins and
I've had several cousins and sisters who come through the program who are so successful now. I mean, also there's, you know, a little hard part about it. My brother, he did come through the program, but he wasn't ready. He left early, and I know a lot of you guys want to leave early. It's hard. Teen Challenge is hard. There are a lot of things that you have to do, and he wasn't ready. And he left, and he lost his life because of an addiction, and he tragically in a car accident. And like, he knows Jesus, he's with Jesus, but his life was so much harder because he wasn't ready. And, you know, there's two sides. You know, there's a happy side to it, but there's also like, you got to put in the work and do. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as you can see, God has really blessed and enriched our lives and fulfilled it. This is Buddy. This is our nephew who we raise as our own.
Out of a very, very tragic event, we got our biggest blessing, one of our biggest blessings, which is Buddy, because we now be able to raise him as our own. He was my brother's oldest, and so now we get to raise him. So that was one of our biggest blessings out of one of our biggest tragedies.
Yeah. And this is Evie. She's 9, and this is Jack, and he's 5.
5, yes. Y'all say hi.
Please hi.
But God has blessed our lives beyond measure, all because we were willing to surrender our lives to Him. There was nothing that we could have done to ever get here, and both of our lives were headed for destruction, but that's not the plan that He had for us. I'm begging you guys, stick it out. Do whatever it takes. Grab a hold of everything you can and treasure that relationship that you have with Jesus.